I worked in sales organizations for most of my career, and every Friday there was like this dread, and it was the weekly down report. So the dread was getting this report with every one of my accounts that was off target. And so, when you're an individual contributor, when you're a salesperson and your targets are down, you have reasons for it. You make reasons, you have excuses, but you have your own reasons. You know what you control. When you're a sales manager, you don't always know what's going on, and so sometimes that's a shock. And when you're a manager of managers, you really don't know what's going on at that front line and why something may be off. So it was interesting to do this in a very, very large sales organization with about 30 managers who had never seen a down report before and had never been asked to explain why numbers were off. So what would happen is I would send the report to each of the managers and say, here's some of your accounts that are down. Can you help me to understand? And so they'd have a couple days to give me a response, because I had to send that up, higher in the company. So it was an important, chain of command in terms of information, because if I had difficulty with my managers knowing what's in their stores and their individual salespeople, I still had several people above me that needed to know as well. So whenever I would get these back in the beginning, they would just be a line of excuses. Oh, we had a slow week. Oh, the salesperson was out sick. Oh, whatever. It was always, oh, whatever. And when I say excuses, the reason I use the term excuses is that they were written that way. They were written as a statement that was about why it couldn't be fixed, and we would just have to accept that it would never be resolved. And so I would coach my managers over and over and over again and try and get this concept to say, look, I'm not looking for excuses. I really want to know that you know what's going on and that you are proactively trying to avoid these situations, but also that you are trying to figure out how to make up for the shortfall. Because if you have a clinic that is short on their sales volumes, and then they're short for the month, and then they're short for the quarter, there's still an expectation to make that towards the end of the year. And you need to make it up faster rather than slower. And it was interesting, the dynamic with people, because some did really, really well with the concept and would say, you know what, I didn't realize we had somebody out, so we're going to make sure we add extra appointments on the schedule. So I had some people that were really proactive in terms of how they thought of it. And I had others that just continued to work in excuse mode. And those people, it was interesting because as we would get farther in the process and they would feel more pressure in it, they would start to say things like, well, then you only care about money. And I guess we're not about customers anymore. We're only about the bottom line. And so the excuses or the answers to the problem in the clinic became, thrown into this mix of now a personal attack, saying that as a leader of people or as a company that we didn't care about our staff or our customers, that we only cared about the dollar. And that statement always bothers me. It bothers me on many, many levels. But it really always bothers me because it tells me that when I would hear it, that I had not done my job in truly preparing those managers to understand their responsibility to the fiscal and operational health of our company. The language of business is math, and the budget makes or breaks a business. So if we know that business is math and the math turns into a budget and the budget makes or breaks the business, why do we get so emotionally involved in this? And I know I have too, so I'm not casting stones here, but I really feel that it's important for a good leader to get their team to the point where they embrace a budget. Embracing a budget means you don't have to like it or you don't have to agree with the numbers are there, but if that's the budget both on income and expenses, then that's what we need to accomplish. You know, a business signs your paycheck. So getting to that point where you say, okay, I can think it's fair or not, but the budget is the budget. Now, how am I going to make it happen? And when you can get people to really say, okay, then I understand that and I'm going to tackle it, then they have so much more creativity that is available to them to come up with solutions. And I'll tell you what, then they get a lot more passionate about achieving results. People get uncomfortable talking about budgets, both personally and professionally. And I think it's because we feel like budget means a negative. Like budget is either good or bad, you make it or you don't, you pass or you fail. But it's not just, I don't know, it's hard to get past some of those emotional things. I mean, think about budget from our standpoint as just human beings personally. You know, if you have to live on a budget, it feels constrictive. It feels like, you know, you have rules that you don't want, that you didn't choose. But I like to think of budget as the thermometer of health. So if you think about it, you know, if you have an illness and you know that your body has a fever, that high fever is an indicator to you that there's something wrong. And so therefore, you have to find a way to cure the illness. So I don't get mad at a fever and say, oh, I can't believe I have a fever. How come this fever's here? You're like, the fever's telling you something. The fever's not the problem. The problem is whatever's causing the fever. So the same thing is the budget is not the problem. The problem is how can we achieve our budget and do it that in a way that's right and feels good, and realize that it's not supposed to be something that has positive and negative connotations. It just is its own thermometer. So every business is a sales business. And I like to say that because people then always jump in and go, no, it's not. I'm not in sales. We're a nonprofit. I'm not in sales. We are tax accountants. I'm not in sales. I cut hair. Well, every business, no matter what it is a sales business. There is a sale of something, a sale of an idea. It's a sale of a product or a service. It's a sale of belief. Even churches are a sales process because they want you to believe their religion, believe their dogma. And there is sales in there that's beautiful. Everywhere I look, I see sales. But it's important to remember that every business also has to have financial parameters in order to operate. So, the sales budget that's set for any kind of large sales company that you might think is more traditional is set not only to make that company a profit, but also to make sure that the operating expenses are covered. So every time you miss the budget in one part of a business, it impacts the entire business. And I think people forget about that. So when I talk about, my leaders not understanding that, if one of their 10 clinics was off and below budget, that actually had lasting repercussions throughout the company, not just for them. And when you can grasp that, then your level of ownership, it really it increases just exponentially. Keep in mind that no matter what, income and expenses have to be managed in order for a business to survive. So yes, you can have businesses that make a lot of money, but that doesn't mean that they can't go under tomorrow if something is really mismanaged in a very large way. Same thing that small businesses often operate on a very tight wire of, what's available to help them grow. So when one piece of that, goes astray, it can really be daunting. So it's really critical that any manager or leader of people gets everyone within their organization to understand that the budget is there for a reason. I remember there was a big, huge uproar. I was probably in high school, something, maybe college, and McDonald's started not giving away napkins in the drive-thru, or if they did, they gave one. But they made a big thing about you have to ask for napkins, and people went trays, and they're like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with this? Are they anti-napkin? And people thought, how much does a napkin cost anyway?